Good morning. Good morning. Typically, I come on here at 8 a.m. It's about 7:35. My family and I, we are going on a little trip today. And so we're trying to leave earlier. So I wanted to still make sure I come on here and read with y'all. So, anyways, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get started in prayer. And then we're going to be reading Job 31 through 34. And so we're going to be introduced to a new character today, Elihu. We're going to be reading about him. Good morning, baby. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started in prayer. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for another opportunity to come on here and read your word. Lord, I ask that you give us understanding, you give us wisdom, reveal to us anything that you need us to identify about ourselves that you want to change within us as we read through Job. Lord, I ask that you be with my family today as we travel. And I continue to ask that you send people across our way that we can share the gospel with. And when those people come, that you give us a boldness and a confidence to speak truth to them. And Lord, I ask all this in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so let's get started in chapter 20 or chapter 31. This title of the section is called Job's Final Appeal. And so chapters 29 and 30, 29 was talking about his past and who Job was before he was afflicted by this pain, and everything was taken away from him. And then chapter 30, that's the present state where he's talking about how he feels and his thoughts. So let's pick up in chapter 31. Good morning, everybody that's hopping on here. All right. I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze at a virgin? What would be my portion from God above and my heritage from the Almighty on high? Is not calamity for the unrighteous and disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does not he see my ways and number all my steps? If I have walked with falsehood and my foot has hastened to deceit, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. If my step has turned aside from the way, and my heart has gone after my eyes, and if any spot has stuck to my hands, then let me sow and another eat, and let what grows for me be rooted out. If my heart has been enticed toward a woman, and I have lain in wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down on her. For that would be a heinous crime. That would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges, for that would be a fire that consumes as far as Abaddon, and it would burn to the root of all my increase. If I have rejected the cause of my manservant or my maidservant, when they brought a complaint against me, what then shall I do when God rises up? When he makes inquiry, what shall I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? If I have withheld anything that the poor desired, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel alone, and the fatherless has not eaten of it. For from my youth the fatherless grew up with me as with a father, and from my mother's womb I guided the widow. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or the needy without covering, if his body has not blessed me, and if he has not warmed with fleece of my sheep, If I have raised my hand against the fatherless because I saw help in the gate, then let my shoulder blade fall from my shoulder, and let my arm be broken from its socket. For I was in terror of calamity from God, and I could not have faced his majesty. If I have made gold my trust, or called fine gold my confidence, if I have rejoiced because my wealth was abundant, or because my hand had found much, if I looked at the sun when it shone, or the moon moving in splendor, and my heart has been secretly enticed, and my mouth has kissed my hand, then also would be an iniquity to be punished by the judges, for I would have been false to God above. If I have rejoiced at the ruin of him who hated me, or exulted when evil overtook him, I have not let my mouth sin by asking for his life with a curse. If the men of my tent have not said, who is there that has not been fulfilled? Who is there that has not been filled with his meat? The sojourner has not lodged in the street. I have opened my doors to the traveler. If I have concealed my transgressions as others do, by hiding my iniquity in my heart, because I stood in fear of the multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence and did not go out of doors. Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me. Oh, that I had the indictment written by my adversary. Surely I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it on me as a crown. I would give him an account of all my steps. Like a prince, I would approach him. If my land has cried out against me, and its furrows have wept together, if I have eaten its yield without payment, and made its owners breathe their last, let thorns grow instead of wheat, and fowls weed instead of barley. The words of Job are ended. So that was chapter 31, and I want to read here the footnote that summarizes chapter 31. So, after contrasting the honor of his past, that was in chapter 29, with the disdain he receives because of his circumstances in the present, that was all in chapter 30, Job confesses one last time he has lived his life in the pursuit of righteousness because he believes that is how it should be lived before God, that turning from God's way is without benefit, and that further curses should come on him if these things are not true. Job begins by affirming his commitment to fidelity and questions how he could break it. Sections that follow each other open with a conditional statement implying that his life has not been patterned by what is described: stealing or coveting, neglecting the needs of both within his household and without, trust in or worship anything other than God, concealing hatred or sin, or improper oversight of his land. Embedded in the end of this description, embedded in the end of this section is a final wish that the charges would be presented to him so that he could give an account. And so we see him again standing firm on being righteous, and he has not done anything to bring this upon himself. He has lived upright, and so he's again searching for the Lord to answer him. Chapter 22. So this is where we meet Elihu. In my footnotes here, it says chapters 32 through 37. Now we're only going to make it through 34 today, but this entire section is suffering as a discipline. And so we want to keep that in mind as we're reading through. So chapter 32, Elihu rebukes Job's three friends. So these three men ceased to answer Job. So Job said all of that, and then it says the words of Job are ended, and nobody said anything back. So now These three men ceased to answer Job because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite of the family of Ram, burned with anger. He burned with anger at Job because he justified himself rather than God. And that is something that Job did. He kept saying like he hadn't done anything wrong. And he hadn't, in the sense of God even said, he was blameless and upright, but we all know that we have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And so to say that Job, like, he was perfect, like, that's not true. And so he was angry because Job justified himself rather than God. He burned with anger also at Job's three friends because they have found no answer. Although they had declared Job to be in the wrong, now Elihu had waited to speak to Job because they were older than he. And when Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these men, he burned with anger. And Elihu, the son of Barashal, I don't know if I said that right, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years, and you are aged. Therefore, I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. I said, let days speak, and many years teach wisdom. But it is the Spirit in man, the breath of the Almighty, that makes him understand. It is not the old who are wise, nor the aged who understand what is right. Therefore I say, listen to me, let me also declare my opinion. Behold, I waited for your words, I listened for your wise sayings, while you searched out what to say. I gave you my attention, and behold, there was none among you who refuted Job or who answered his words. Beware lest you say, we have found wisdom. God may vanquish him, not a man. Vanquish him, not a man. He has not directed his words against me, and I will not answer him with your speeches. They are dismayed. They answer no more. They have not a word to say. And shall I wait because they do not speak, because they stand there and answer no more? I will also answer with my share. I also will declare my opinion, for I am full of words. The spirit within me constrains me. Behold, my belly is like wine that has no vent, like new wineskins ready to burst. I must speak that I might find relief. I must open my lips and answer. I will not show partiality to any man or use flattery toward any person, for I do not know how to flatter, else my maker would soon take me away. And so this guy, he's anxious to speak. He's been listening, and he's very upset at how this all went down. And so he was trying to keep quiet, but he has got to say what he needs to say. So in chapter 32, and let me see if yeah. Let's read chapter 33. Elihu rebukes Job. But now hear my speech, O Job, and listen to all my words. Behold, I open my mouth, the tongue in my mouth speaks. My words declare the uprightness of my heart, and what my lips know, they speak sincerely. The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. Answer me if you can. Set your words in order before me. Take your stand. Behold, I am toward God as you are. I too was pinched off from a piece of clay. Behold, no fear of me need terrify you. My pressure will not be heavy upon you. Surely you have spoken in my ears, and I have heard the sound of your words. You say, I am pure, without transgression. I am clean, and there is no iniquity in me. Behold, he finds occasions against me. He counts me as his enemy. He puts my feet in the stocks and watches all my paths. Behold, in this you are not right. I will answer you, for God is greater than man. Why do you contend against him, saying, he will answer none of man's words? For God speaks in one way, and in two, though man does not perceive it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on men while they slumber on their beds, and terrifies them with warnings, that he may turn aside from his deed and conceal pride from a man. He keeps back his soul from the pit, his life perishing by the sword. Man is also rebuked with pain on his bed and with continual strife in his bones, so that his life loathes bread and his appetite the choicest food. His flesh is so wasted away that it cannot be seen, and his bones that were not seen stick out. His soul draws near the pit, and his life to those who bring death. If there be for him an angel, a mediator, one of the thousand, to declare to man what is right for him, and he is merciful to him and says, deliver him from going down into the pit. I have found a ransom. Let his flesh become flesh with youth. Let him return to the days of his youthful vigor. Then man prays to God, and he accepts him. He sees his face with a shout of joy, and he restores to man his righteousness. He sings before men and says, I have sinned and perverted what was right, and it was not repaid to me. He has redeemed my soul from going down into the pit, and my life shall look upon the light. Behold, God does all these things twice, 3 times with a man to bring back his soul from the pit, that he may be lightened with the light of life. Pay attention, O Job. Listen to me. Be silent, and I will speak. If you have any words, answer me. Speak, for I desire to justify you. If not, listen to me. Be silent, and I will teach you wisdom. So let me know if y'all have any thoughts on this section of Elihu. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Good morning, everybody who's on here. We are in Job 33, and we're going to wrap up with chapter 34 today. I will go ahead and I'll read the footnotes for this section. Elihu opens and closes this section with a call for Job to listen to his words and answer if he is able. He then presents a summary of Job's contentions regarding himself, his circumstances, and God's seeming silence before suggesting ways that God speaks in order to turn a person from the way that leads to death. And so it opens up in chapter 33, verse 1. He says, but now hear my speech, O Job, and listen to all of my words. And so, and you hear this word listen, it's a repetitive word. I mean, he ends it like that as well. If not, listen to me, be silent, and I will teach you wisdom. So you see that word listen throughout chapter 33. So what is he gonna say? Where does this guy come from? All right, let's move on to chapter 34. Good morning, Anna. Good morning. Good morning. I hope y'all are doing well. All right. Chapter 34. So we are going to continue to hear from Elihu. This title of the section is called Elihu Asserts God's Justice. And this is this title in the footnotes is called An Appeal to the Wise. He sets out to dispute Job in a speech structured by its general statements of address. He is calling wise men to hear Job's contention that he is in the right, and men of understanding to hear Elihu's disputation of this claim, with both groups bracketed together as those who will agree with Elihu against Job. And so let's go ahead and read chapter 34. Needed this word today. Amen. Chapter 34. Okay, let's finish up in chapter 34. Then Elihu answered and said, "Hear my words, you wise men, and give ear to me, you who know, for the ear tests words as the palate tastes food." That is very profound. For the ear tests words as the palate tastes food. That is a very profound statement. Are we testing words like we're tasting food? Especially words that we hear other people speak about scripture. Are we testing those words against scripture? Are we just blindly listening to everyone who says anything and claims it's Bible? That's very profound. Let us choose what is right. Let us know among ourselves what is good. For Job has said, I am in the right, and God has taken away my right. In spite of my right, I am counted a liar. My wound is incurable, though I am without transgression. What man is like Job, who drinks up scoffing like water, who travels in company with evildoers and walks with wicked men? For he has said, it profits a man nothing that he should take delight in God. Therefore, hear me, you men of understanding. Far be it from God that he should do wickedness, and from the Almighty that he should do wrong. From according to the work of a man, he will repay him, and according to his ways, he will make it befall him. Of a truth, God will not do wickedly, and the Almighty will not pervert justice. Who gave him charge over the earth, and who laid on him the whole world? If he should set his heart to it, and gather to himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh would perish together, and man would return to dust. If you have understanding, hear this. Listen to what I say. Shall one who hates justice govern? Will you condemn him who is righteous and mighty, who says to a king, worthless one, and to nobles, wicked man, who shows no partiality to princes, nor regards the rich more than the poor? For they are all the work of his hands. In a moment they die. At midnight the people are shaken and pass away, and the mighty are taken away by no human hand. For his eyes are on the ways of the man, and he sees all his steps. There is no gloom or deep darkness where evildoers may hide themselves. For God has no need to consider a man further, that he should go before God in judgment. He shatters the mighty without investigation and sets others in their place. Thus, knowing their works, he overturns them in the night, and they are crushed. He strikes them for their wickedness in a place for all to see, because they turn aside from following him and had no regard for any of his ways. So they caused the cry of the poor to come to him, and he heard the cry of the afflicted. When he is quiet, who can condemn? When he hides his face, who can behold him? Whether it be a nation or a man, that a godless man should not reign, that he should not ensnare the people. For anyone, for has anyone said to God, I have borne punishment, I will not offend any more. Teach me what I do not see. If I have done iniquity, I will do it no more. Will he then make repayment to suit you because you reject it? For you must choose and not I. Therefore declare what you know. Men of understanding will say to me, and the wise man who hears me will say, Job speaks without knowledge. His words are without insight. Would that Job were tried to the end, because he answers like the wicked man, for he adds rebellion to his sin. He claps his hand among us and multiplies his word against God. So this is Elihu's appeal to these people who are apparently wise. He's kind of presenting the case among them about what Job has done. And so it really shifted. Like he rebukes the three friends in 22 verses. It was pretty quick, but then Job in chapter 33, like his issue, it seems to be more with Job. You know, we've got 33, chapter 33. He just really doubled down on rebuking Job and asking him to listen to what I'm saying. And then in chapter 34, he's kind of recapping all of these things to the wise men. And then in chapter 35, which we will read tomorrow, I won't be able to come on here tomorrow morning, but we'll read 5 chapters tomorrow, beginning in chapter 35, and then I'll be back on here Friday to finish up Job. And will it be tomorrow that we'll hear from? Yeah, tomorrow. So if you read tomorrow, hopefully you've been reading all of Job with us, but if you read tomorrow in chapter 38, this is where the Lord comes in and answers Job. And so I'm excited to read that. But let me read the footnotes here. If anything that stands out. Verse 3, that profound statement about for the ear tests words as the palate tastes food. Truth is discerned through hearing, just as the quality of food is discerned through tasting. Job used the same proverb earlier to challenge the wisdom of his friends. Elihu repeats the proverb to challenge his listeners to weigh Job's words. And so verse 8 here in the footnotes, this is interesting. Elihu describes Job as one who walks with evildoers and wicked men, which is a path that the wise are called to avoid. He will ground this description in what he feels Job's assertion about himself and God necessarily means. And so in verses 10 through 37, although Elihu has already indicated his conclusion about Job, he sets out to prove that Job should be condemned for his claims. And then the end of chapter 34, Elihu concludes with the presumption that any who are truly men of understanding or wise would agree with him, that Job speaks like a fool who is without knowledge or insight. Furthermore, Elihu wishes boldly that the judgment signified in Job's suffering would be taken to its logical end. Because in addition to whatever sin he is ultimately being punished for, Job's words also express rebellion and arrogance against God. And so he doesn't all the way have it right either, it seems. We'll continue reading more 35, 36, and 37. We'll continue to hear more from him, but yeah. he's kind of putting Job in front of all these people on a trial to declare that, okay, he is wrong, which that's not what God said. God said he was blameless and upright, and he was Satan was given authority to do this to Job. Y'all, this is a lot. This is a lot. We'll have to continue reading, but it to me, this Elihu, he's kind of been on the outside of these conversations, and he's giving his thoughts. He's like, you ever been in a conversation and like you're trying to be quiet, but you're like, oh, I can't take it. I got to speak up. And so he's speaking up and sharing his thoughts. And I do believe that Job is blameless and upright. That is what God said that he was. But there is another aspect that he's not sinless. So he is guilty of sin, but his life has honored God, and he has followed God. He's followed his commandments. He has done things like take care of the widows, take care of the fatherless, help the poor. He's really lived a life of serving others with the wealth that he has acquired. And so this Elihu, he's coming in here and saying that, he's such a wicked man and he needs to be condemned. And that doesn't line up. So we're going to have to continue reading tomorrow. Let's see. Digesting them or accepting whatever is spoken into us, literally food for thought. Yes, yes. I thought that was such a profound verse. Wasn't Job a righteous man? Yeah, that's it's like, okay, he's saying how like terrible Job is, and how, he's really like putting Job on. I'm just trying to picture this Elihu. He's there somehow listening, and who knows how many people are there with all these dialogues between Job and his three friends. But he inserts himself like, hey, I can't keep quiet anymore. I need to speak this. And so he rebukes his friends. That was a quick thing in chapter 32. And he was burning with anger. And so, and this is a younger man. That's why he was kind of trying to keep quiet, because he's like, okay, these people are older than me. Like, they're supposed to know more than me, but I have something I need to say. And so he finally speaks up, and I'm trying to picture this. It's like he rebukes the three friends, then he rebukes Job, and then he talks to these wise people that are gathered. And so it's almost like you have Job, and if you can just imagine how Job is, he's got to be in a weak, very weak, frail, unrecognizable. That's what we learned at the beginning of Job when his friends saw him. Like, his skin, like he's got swords from top to bottom. And so you've got Job standing here and he's talking to these wise men saying, listen to me. Job is wicked, and he did he say he was wicked, or he said that he walks with evildoers and the wicked, which the wise are supposed to avoid. And so there's a little bit of, I feel like, humiliation that they're trying, like, you're already humiliated and just like wishing your life was non-existent. Job said that. He cursed the day he was born. He's ready for his life to be over. And so there's a little bit of, I feel, or a lot of bit of humiliation. Like, you have this guy who literally lost everything. He lost his home, his animals, his sons and daughter. Like, he lost everything. He is in an unrecognizable state. And this was someone who everyone admired in the community. Job said that, like, when he talked about his past, people respected him. He had honor. He helped people. He was a good man. And now that this has happened, they're just like, this Elihu guy is really pointing the finger at him. And so is he even better than the friends? Is he? The book of Job is deep. It makes you really think. Yeah, this is my probably second time reading Job from start to finish, which I encourage anyone who is wanting to start reading, read the whole book. Yeah, sometimes we just want to read a few chapters or a story, but when we read the full book, we get the full context. And so that's why it was very important to me that I read through the entire Old Testament front to end, to really get a full context. But yeah, the Bible in general, like, no matter how many times we read a book, like, there's always something that we can learn. The friends were all over the place. Yes. Yeah. All over the place. Yeah. Physical, mental, and spiritual torment. The full book equals the full story. Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, I'm excited to pick up in chapter 35. Again, I will not be able to come on here live tomorrow morning. On Thursdays, I have co-op with my daughter, and so it's a busy morning. We've got to leave at like 8:15, 8:20, and it's too stressful. So I typically I'll try to wake up early to read. Like, I'll try to wake up at 6:30 or so to come downstairs and read, but sometimes I don't. And so last week I did come on later in the day and read with y'all, and that worked out very well. If I can do that, I will, but that's not something I've set a goal to do on Thursdays. Thursdays is more independent reading. So tomorrow we'll read 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. We will read through chapter 39. And the Lord answers in chapter 38 and 39. It's all together. It's 38 and 39 is one big section. And so I cannot wait. And then we will wrap up Job on Friday. We'll wrap up Job on Friday together, and then we are going to enter into the book of Psalms on Friday, and we will be in the book of Psalms all October. So if you guys are interested in the reading plan, That is in the Facebook group, so definitely check that out. If you want to like save that to your phone, do that. But yeah, I'm excited. I hope y'all are excited. I'm so grateful for the lives. I need to make sure I join on time. So, Anna, I typically come on at 8 o'clock. So today I came on earlier because I wanted to read with y'all. However, me and my family, we're going to be leaving this morning to go on a trip. And I didn't want to feel too rushed, so I came on about 7:30. So typically, I'm on here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m. Thursday mornings, we do independent reading, and then on the weekends, we do independent reading. And again, we're just doing about 5 chapters a day. Yeah, go to, if you click the link, it's in the group. It's called Christians Sharing God's Goodness. And I just posted it yesterday. I need to feature the post in the group. Let me do that right now while I'm thinking about it. Let me end this live. Okay. And if you